How does one face certain death? One man survived a horrific car crash that cost him half his skull, but not his life. Join us here each week for amazing survival tales of superhuman strength. Find out why these people refuse to succumb, but instead show us how they survive. Royal Caribbean's Ovation of the Sea has loaded its last passengers for what is to be a normal, fun-filled cruise. Among Ovation's passengers is Miss Stephanie Broward. Little does Stephanie know it, but in 2 short days, she'll be one of the luckiest few passengers to survive a tragic shore excursion that will alter her way of living forever. Stephanie is not alone on this voyage. She has come aboard with 3 other members of her family, of which 2 will perish in that same ill-fated land excursion. Overnight, the Ovation of the Seas rests in New Zealand's harbor, but in the morning, some of her guests will be offered a boat tour to the famed White Island. White Island is known for Waiakere Volcano. Waiakere Volcano releases steam and gases continually, but has not erupted for quite some time now. As the day trippers disembark from Ovation, they join a chorus of smaller ships that will take them to the edge of the island. To get even closer to the shore, passengers will transfer to rubberized rafts, bring them up to the rocky coast. Tourists will experience steam rising from fissures in the rocks, the acrid smell of sulfur, and the boiling of groundwater. Unfortunately, it will be here, near the mouth of the island's smoldering volcano, where tourists will be injured or killed from an unanticipated eruption. Injured from the blast, Stephanie Broward. Among the dead, her sister. Notice Stephanie standing just feet away from the crater prior to the explosion. The neon-jacketed man before you is their tour guide. He will be immediately killed by the initial blast. At 2:12 p.m., American tourist Michael Shad photographed the eruptive column surging into the sky from the tour boat Phoenix. When White Island erupted, there were 47 people on the island, and only 26 will survive the blast. Some of the survivors will lose their lives in the hospital. The eruption saw most tourists trapped on the island, unable to outrun the plumes of acidic gas and the ash that surrounded them. Some saw their entire families wiped out. Others suffered excruciating burns nearly to all of their bodies. Ships that backed away from the initial blast will return first to the island to render first aid and rescue. What these watercraft returned to was an island that more reflected the moon's gray surface in color than anything on Earth. They would see the damaged hull of a tour helicopter knocked off its moorings by the blast. Hours after the blast, as many locals began to assist in the rescue, would anyone see the air support arrive. Most of the critically wounded would be ferried away from the devastation by boat over the helicopters, which refused to land on the island. Luckily for Stephanie and the other wounded was a private helicopter pilot who chose to land his chopper in harm's way to remove people from the devastation back to St. John's Island. A more robust remains recovery would take place the following day, with anxious family members awaiting their loved one's status. Stephanie would never get the chance to say goodbye to her dad or her sister, as she was placed in a medically induced coma. Upon waking a week later, she would hardly be able to recognize her current image from how she looked just a few days earlier. But with a great support system that included her mother and friends, Stephanie would recover over time. She would lose the use of her fingers, which were destroyed in an initial chemical blast, but ultimately she would charge on towards life over victimization. Here's what Stephanie's new face looks like today.